gentlemen, welcome to America's Auto Enthusiast Program. This is Auto World. And now, here's your host, Bob Long.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you very much for joining me here for another hour of Auto World. In this hour, we're going to be focusing on oil with our very special lubrication specialist, Dan Watson, standing by to take your calls at 855-660-4261. Or if you prefer email, we get lots of emails. Bob at autoworldradio.com, Bob at boblongradio.com. If you were listening in a previous hour, I promised you a trivia question, so here it is. Whoever comes up with the answer to this prize will get something cool from Warren Tracy, the man who started the Busted Knuckle Garage. It's an online automotive and motorcycle gift shop. Jay Leno does a lot of business there, and Warren's just a cool guy. Whoever comes up with the answer to this question, there was a Dodge named after a horoscope. One of the 12 signs of the zodiac was the nameplate on a Dodge going back into the 1980s. I don't remember when they pulled the plug on that, but it was based on the K-Car platform. Telephone-wise, 855-660-4261, or via the email, Bob at autoworldradio, Bob at boblongradio.com. When it comes to oil, we don't do any better than the gentleman we have joining us right now. He is the expert when it comes to lubrication with over 25 years of experience. As a matter of fact, he has worked on the mechanical side of the U.S. Navy's nuclear-powered submarines, and he's one of the largest Amsoil dealers in all of North America. Dan Watson, welcome back.
Oh, it's great to be back, Bob. Great to hear your good melodious tones on that end of the phone.
Well, thank you. As I shared with people in the first hour, I just had pretty serious heart surgery on the 28th, and feeling better, but still kind of feel like I got hit by a cement truck. But as my producer said, it's only got to get better. I'll get my voice back to its normal radio-esque style and get really cooking on making Auto World and growing Auto World and helping you grow your business as well. Let's talk a little bit about what it's like for you to have been involved with Amsoil for 25 years.
Well, it's an easy thing for me to say because what I have seen out of Amsoil over the last 25 years is just this seemingly never-ending pursuit of, formulating the perfect or the best motor oil lubricant they can do. It's one of the things that attracts me to the company is that they know good and well they're not going to sell oil to every customer out there, but what they are trying to do is make a very high-quality product that people who are, let's just say, quality-conscious type customers, that they're going to satisfy those customers. And in that vein, they announced what I thought was really going to be hard to do, but they've come out with a reformulation that the oil this fall, and for example, the Signature Series oil, their premium oil, top of the line from Amsoil, is rated to be a 75% improvement in its cleaning quality and a higher rated anti-wear, a firm 25,000 mile or 1 year warranty. I mean, they've improved it when I thought it would be very hard to make that improvement. But it challenges Alan Amatuzio, the chief operating officer. He's the chemical engineer, and it challenges him to make something better, and he keeps coming up with it. So in 25 years, I've seen this company grow from a small manufacturing plant next to some railroad tracks in Superior, Wisconsin, to a modern, very modern facility that has over 1 million square feet of manufacturing space. It's so automated and so fantastic that the company keeps challenging those of us in the field to force them to go to a second shift because the plant can make so much oil and make it, automated with all the modern computer-generated type systems. It's a marvel to look at what they put it together, and that's come from a company that when Al Amatuzio, the founder of the company, started back in 1971, he had almost like a manual fill system that you fill milk bottles with when he started.
Wow.
And he was the engineer blending it, and he had another certified chemical engineer in as a consultant, and that's how he started the company. So you're talking about an American success story. It's amazing what people can do in this country when they have a good idea and they have the wherewithal to pursue it and make it happen. It's no different than Bill Gates or Michael Dell at Dell, and these people had ideas, and in this case it was a lubrication idea that synthetic lubricants would be an excellent match for automotive application. They were only being used in jet aircraft when he started, and I think he was ahead of his time because now you can see every major oil company, they've got to have some type of synthetic available to the public or else they're going to miss the boat.
So true, and with all your work around and all your experience in the U.S. Navy, too, it only reiterated the power that synthetic has over traditional mineral-based oil. It's not to be overlooked.
No, and for our consumers out there, what is a good thing for them to understand is nobody is saying that the petroleum oils couldn't be manufactured to be a good product. They can. But our technology in our cars and where we run them, it's not the same as when it was 50 years ago. When I was a boy, the average thermostat in a car was 165 degrees. The thermostat now is 205. That's a 40-degree increase in the water temperature in the vehicle, which means about the same thing for the temperature that the oil has to operate at, except a little-known fact, but a true one, is that the oil operates from 30 to 70 degrees hotter than the water temperature. So we now have oil in some cases that it would be at 275 degrees. And petroleum oil is a beautiful, natural product that is not designed to run at 275 degrees. It's just not in its physical parameters. So we have to face the fact. In order to push these cars to get more power out of smaller engines, we use turbos, we use computer-controlled injection systems, and we push a lot of power out of a fairly small power plant. And we run it at higher temperatures, which allows us to run a cleaner burn, which improves for the EPA, what's coming out the tailpipe. So everything has pushed the engine parameters to the point to where a regular petroleum oil is just being beat up mercilessly by a modern engine, especially these turbocharged V6s and V4s. They are just, not V4s, but straight 4s. They just beat that oil up something mercilessly. And the turbocharger itself sometimes can have oil reaching 400, 500, 600 degrees in it. So, it's just...
That's a really good point. When we come back from the other side, we actually have a question from Murray about a turbocharged vehicle. We've also got Rick from Chicago, and we have room for you at 855-660-4261. This is Auto World. I said you're on, buddy,
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Hi, this is Jay Leno, and you're listening to Auto World with Bob Long.
Watch out, man, how you drive that Cadillac there.
It's confusing today. Oil, it's a whole different ballgame. You need an expert. You need need someone that you can call to get the advice on the proper oil for your vehicle, and you need someone who will be around and available after you purchase the oil. And that gentleman is joining us right now, Dan Watson, owner of thelubepage.com. And before we go any further, why don't we make sure and give out your email address as well as telephone number, Dan?
Okay, and like you said, the web page is an easy way to get in touch with me at thelubepage.com. And so my email address is also Dan Watson, just my name, Dan Watson, at thelubepage.com. And you can reach me at 800-370-2986. Now, if you call me, you may have to leave me a message because the phone is really busy, but if you leave a message, I guarantee you'll get called back. So,
absolutely. We'll call you back. I will pledge for that. He's very good at returning calls, so don't be a stranger and give him a call. Give Dan a call anytime or shoot him an email. We have Murray listening in Oregon, and Murray is the proud owner of a 2008 Volkswagen GTI with the direct shift gearbox and the 2-liter turbocharged engine. He says the vehicle is now over 100,000 miles, and he is concerned about, he'd like to keep it longer. He would like to wring more mileage out of it. Does Dan have any suggestions about a high mileage turbo?
Well, I will say this for that particular application. It's a good one to bring up because it's a European automobile. Now, the European oil classification systems are much more complex than here in the United States because they don't think one shoe fits all. So when you've got a turbocharged gas or diesel engine, you need an oil that meets what they call the ACEA classifications from Europe, and that's not the standard American auto engine oil. What works best is there's a series of oils in Amsoil that are called European auto oils, and some of the other manufacturers have begun to make a similar type thing because it has been quickly recognized that the specs are differently called for. And the thing to make that engine and that turbo go on, now I've dealt with people through Amsoil that have 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 miles on Volkswagens, okay? So you're just getting started at 100,000 miles, all right? But it is important to run the correct oil according to the European auto spec. And on top of that, these cars have sophisticated exhaust systems in Europe. Sophisticated in that they have to be protected by the type of oil that you run in the engine. And it's got to do with the fear of carryover of the additive products of zinc and phosphorus into your exhaust system, and you could poison the catalytic converter and some other things on your European auto. So they have different classifications of the amount of zinc and phosphorus that is allowed to be in the oil according to their classification. I don't have your vehicle up in front of me, Murray, looking at it, but it's very easy for me to find the exact specific oil for it. So if you remind me by just sending me an email to Dan Watson at the Loop page, or if you go to my website, give me the particulars on the car, year, make, model, that kind of stuff, I'll get back to you with the exact recommendation. But just for all the listeners, let me make sure you understand, if you have a European automobile, you have got to make sure that you meet the European oil specification for your car. And that doesn't mean that the API SN-rated gasoline engine oil that we produce here in America meets that classification. In most cases, it actually doesn't. So you have to buy a particular oil to meet it. Now, what can happen if you don't? Maybe a little of nothing, but you just don't know for sure because how the oil's been formulated to meet that API SN. So the best thing is to buy something that meets the spec, the European ACEA spec, and we can match that up for you in Amsoil. There's other companies starting to do it too because it's so obvious that these things are different. And that's one of the places where we see the greatest number of mistakes made by oil change shops and so forth is in servicing European autos because they're not putting in the oil according to the European spec. They may get the viscosity right, like a 5W40 or 5W30, but there's further finite specifications that are required by that manufacturer, that European auto manufacturer, and they're pretty tight, those specs, to get the right oil. And some people find out the hard way if they have a failure, especially in one of the exhaust systems on these cars. I know a particular incident with a Mercedes that the exhaust system got wiped out from using just way out the wrong oil, and that was a $14,000 repair, and it wasn't covered by warranty. Okay, wow. So you have to be careful in this, and it's like Bob said earlier, it's a good idea in many cases that you take advantage of free oil advice and consulting because the marketplace has gotten a little complex when you start going between European, Asian, and American vehicles to make sure that you're meeting the manufacturer's spec because they made the spec, they require it for their warranty applications, and it's a good idea to check and recheck and make sure that you're in compliance with your manufacturer's warranty specifications.
Very well said, Dan. And as long as we're on European automobiles, we'll squeeze this question in. This one comes from Virginia. The gentleman's name is Dan, and Dan is considering purchasing a 2004 Jag XJ equipped with a 4.2-liter double overhead cam 32-valve V8. He says it's got 185,000 miles on it. Am I crazy? Is this too much mileage for a vehicle like this? What about Jags, or as they like to say, Jaguars?
Yeah, Jaguar. No, those cars could go a long ways. I will say this, and I'm not trying to be critical here, but I've owned British Leyland vehicles myself. Back years ago, the MGB, which I really enjoyed, fine little cars, a lot of fun.
Sure.
But the thing about the British Leyland products that are famous hasn't got anything to do with the engine or the oil. It's got to do with the amazing electrical system that seems to have ghost in it from one end to the other half the time. So if you find a used Jag or you find a used one of these vehicles from Great Britain and it's not got funny lights blinking on and off and you can't figure out what's going on in the electrical system, the rest of it's pretty reliable. But they've had some unique electrical systems in those cars. And I'm not saying that critically because I had one, I enjoyed it, and I chased the electrical problems. But it's like they're just kind of known for that. And I don't know what it is they do. Maybe it's somebody can explain it that's listening out there in the radio land. But
thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
My pappy said, son, you're going to drive me to drinking if you don't stop driving that hot rod Lincoln.
Giving your radio a broadcasted tune-up. This is Auto World and your host, Bob Long.
Have you heard the story?
We're back live across North America, around the world at GCNlive.com. And as I said, on great radio stations from coast to coast, border to border. Had a little digital malfunction on my end, so I apologize for the ending of that last break, but we've got everything back in queue, and we've got a number of emails and calls that are floating in. But here's a question that was emailed from Rick from Chicago. When you talk about older engines that need a higher zinc content, how young would the older engine have to be, and would that include a higher mileage engine? Good question.
Well, it's a good question because we hear a lot about this, and it has to do with the zinc and phosphorus content of the current SN-rated gasoline engine oil. that has been limited by the EPA to protect the catalytic converters. So when we're talking about an engine, it's primarily related to the what we call the tappet system for valve operation. If people are familiar, you got solid lifters in those engines. It goes back to the 70s and the 80s and 60s. And they were replaced in the 80s gradually with what's called roller lifters. Now, in many ways, the roller lifters solved the problem. You didn't need quite as high. But here's the point we're getting at. You would have to know in your vehicle what type of a valve system, cam and valve system it has, okay? And most people who own one of the cars that have solid lifters, they know it, okay, because that's what they chose to have. They were in high-performance Mustangs, 65, 67, 72, 74, 75, any of those Mustangs back there, Camaros, GTOs, all of those vehicles typically had solid lifters, and they were designed for good high-performance operation. The problem is, Bob, you run into with these things is that when I have what's called a contact and slide motion, because, see, that solid lifter, when that lobe of that cam comes around and contacts it, it lifts it, but it slides under it, right? And it has to have the proper type of lubrication so that it continue to have that slide action and not wear the camshaft lobe off because it doesn't have the right lubrication. Zinc and phosphorus are the anti-wear additives that make that particular lubrication regime work and protect the cam against accelerated wear by that solid lifter. So Rick's question is a good one because it was only a more recent time that they decided to drop the zinc and phosphorus levels in the SN-rated gasoline engine oil from, in many cases, over 1,200 down to a maximum of 800, okay? So there's concern in that area. So people who have these vehicles look for something that can guarantee a high zinc and phosphorus. Well, to do that, you have to have an oil that is not SN rated. So here we go into that you actually have to have an oil that's not made for the general automotive public, and so you go to a specialty oil. Now, the Amsoil company makes one that's basically, they call it their Z-Rod oil, okay, and that's for street rods, and they're talking about these muscle cars out of the 60s, 70s, and a lot of cars being rebuilt and, put back on the road with this type of system in it.
Sure.
And so they make an oil special for that. They make it in a 1030 and a 2050. And they make another one that's in a different vein, but it's for a 40 weight. So here's the deal. You got one of the older cars, and it's got solid lifters in the valve system. What you want to do is shoot me an email, and they make the right recommendation for that particular car, because there are a variety of oils that can work, and sometimes it's better to have a 30, sometimes it's better to have a 40, and other times it's better to have a 50-weight oil for those applications. But it takes a little bit of know-how to figure out what is the best application. And so, hey, as always, on thelubepage.com, you can come in and ask those questions, and you will get an answer. We answer all the questions and inquiries that come in through that website. Nobody gets missed.
That's great. And, Dan, you should point out about all the wonderful work that you've done over the years on YouTube. You've got a lot of videos up for folks.
Yeah, there is a lot. And those were made during my normal training sessions with other Amsoil dealers, because my level of expertise as a certified lubrication specialist, I try to do as much teaching as I can to help other dealers that are in the business. And by the way, if there's anybody out there that's ever thought they wanted to get into a small business that's particularly flourishing, we're always looking for new Amsoil dealers, people that are interested in that. And you can ask about that on the Lube page also. But if you decide to do something like that, make sure that you do your due diligence before you sign up with somebody, because the person you sign up with will be key to whether you succeed or you don't succeed. And I like to sometimes tell people I can give you all the references for people I've worked with over the years that you can handle for getting all the help you need to make you successful if you decide to be, that you want to try being an Amsoil dealer and learn what it's all about.
That's great. Our telephone number is 855-660-4261 via the email Bob at Autoworld Radio, Bob at boblongradio.com. Got a question here from Amber, who has relocated recently from Michigan to the great state of Arizona, living in the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. She said she's concerned. She has a 2015 Ford Fusion, and now that she's living in much warmer climate, luckily, Amber, I think you've missed the height of the summer there in Scottsdale, Phoenix, but nevertheless, that kind of temperature can take a toll on oil, and it's good that you popped this email over to me so we can give it to Dan. What do you think, Dan?
Well, a lot of people will tell you that Ford Fusion is going to call for either a 0W or a 5W20 from the factory. That's what it calls for. Now, if you're going to use most of these standard oils that are out there, you might be better off with a 5W30, excuse me. But here's the problem you run into. Most of these new vehicles have variable valve timing. And Ford is really hard up on the fact that the viscosity of the oil is critical to proper variable valve timing operation. And they want you to run that 20-weight oil. So let's stick with the 20-weight oil and make everybody happy. But if you do, you have to run a good, high-quality synthetic engine oil, especially in Arizona, if you're going to run a 20-weight oil. Do not run any cheap substitutes. And when I say that, I think we make the best from Amsoil, but you could get a 5W20 from Mobil that would be a good oil. Probably get one from Castrol, but you won't get one that comes anywhere close to being as good as the Amsoil Signature Series 0W20 or 5W20. You want an oil that will not lose its ability to lubricate due to high temperature. And so you've got to use a synthetic. With the temperature outside as high as it is, that car's going to have a hard time keeping that oil below 250 degrees. And you're going to end up with a 20-weight oil just thinning out and causing accelerated wear over time. So don't use a petroleum 20-weight oil. Come up to a synthetic engine oil, and then be careful, get the highest quality synthetics. Some of the synthetics out there, temperature-wise, wouldn't be much better than a petroleum. But I guarantee you that the Signature Series Amsoil will take that 5W20 up above 300, about 320, 330 degrees before it will even go out of the viscosity range that it's rated at. So you need that kind of protection with 20-weight oil.
Absolutely. TheLubePage.com. That's the destination to check out. When we come back on the other side, more oil questions with our certified oil expert, Dan Watson. And that's coming your way right after we step aside for some important messages. Don't go away.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Broadcasting from the middle of Corvette Boulevard and Stingray Avenue, this is Auto World with your host, Bob Long.
Hi, Dan Watson for this hour as we pop the hood here on Auto World and focus in on oil. Dan is an Amsoil dealer, one of the biggest in the entire country, and he's an oil lubrication specialist, so he's kind of a PhD of all things oil. So if you have a question, give us a call or shoot us an email like Daryl did in New Hampshire listening on WCCM. And the question he has for you, Dan, is he wants to know if any chains, quick lube places or Sears or any other outlets that you know of, do any of them stock Amsoil, or is it something he has to purchase himself?
Well, it is a good question, and that's hard for me to answer as an independent for all areas around the country. if you, it's always good to check online, see if there's anything that's available in your area. Look in the yellow pages under oils lubricating, see if you find something there. Because I have personally, I'm in Florida, and I have all kinds of places that do service with Amsoil, but I can't say in his particular area. But, again, if he wants to come to the lube page and ask me that information, I can find out for him if there's something local for him and make sure that he can find where he can get Amsoil. Also, we have a number of places over the years that, sometimes they don't care. If you bring your oil in, they'll make the oil change for you. And, of course, that's an option to do also. We've worked through that direction before. But it is interesting when it comes to those lube change. You understand what I'm saying, Bob? Because a lot of them have a name up there. Valvoline oil change, Quaker State oil change. So it would be rare that they would let us poke our nose into one that's got somebody's, oil company's name across the thing. You'd have to find an independent place like maybe, a Goodyear or Firestone service center or someplace like that an Amsoil dealer has set up to do that. And by the way, I'll say that again, if there's someone out there listening that owns one of these places and you think it'd be a good idea to carry Amsoil in your shop, we can set that up. It's easy to do. It's factory direct to Amsoil like any other vendor account. Just go to the lubepage.com, fill out the information that you're looking for carrying Amsoil in your store, and we'll take the ball and run with it because that's what we do, and we've been bringing Amsoil into businesses for, the last 25 years, and it's something that is a win-win situation, a great product, good profits, and very good product for your customers. So if anybody hears that, we'll also take care of you from that direction. So anyway, we're a full-service shop, Bob.
Very good, Dan. And again, the lubepage.com is the website, and you can look Dan up. Just put Dan Watson in YouTube, and you'll be able to check out some of his videos. We're going to have a link up on autoworldradio.com very, very soon with that as well. Here's another question that is floated in. This one's from Adam in California, and Adam says he is totally confused when it comes to all things oil, and he doesn't say specifically what's going on, but vehicle-wise, he says he's got a newer vehicle, a 2012 Lexus RX, and would like to know what would Dan's recommendation be for a Japanese-powered SUV.
Well, in general, those are, I don't have that lookup in front of me to see specifically. I can do that, and for him, if I can give him a complete, detailed recommendation, if he goes on the website and asks me for that, the lubepage.com, he'll get a complete printout recommendation. But generally speaking, in those types of cars, I highly recommend Amsoil's Signature Series Premium Synthetic Motor Oil. And you've got some of these, like this Lexus. If you take care of that Lexus, that's a 500,000-mile vehicle. All you have to do is just take care of it. If you give it a little love and care, it will go a long, long time. It's very, 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 very well engineered. And I just don't know right off the top of my head whether they're calling for a 5W20 or a 5W30. That's the only thing I'm not sure of in my mind, but it's going to be one of those two oils. And for us, the Japanese requirements are in this application are pretty close to the same ones for our premium vehicles, so we can meet those pretty straightforward. I tell you the area where it is all over the map, and you have to be so careful, and that's in transmission fluids. Maybe another show we'll talk about transmission fluids, but that is all over the place, and it's so critical to use the right product, and yet the manufacturers have gotten so specific on it that they've divided themselves up all over the place, and you have to be careful, real careful, what type of transmission fluid you use. But for this Lexus, I'll be glad to give you a detailed recommendation. Just go to the website, put in the basic information for the car. You'll see that when there's a place there to ask Dan a question. You just put it in, and you'll get more information than you can almost digest. So we will take care of giving you the right recommendation. You don't have to worry about being concerned or lost in all this stuff about oil, because you probably don't know how to do heart surgery either, but that's why we have people that do. So if you need help with the oil, that's what I'm good at. So we'll be glad to help.
And that's such a great point. I mean, you can buy your oil anywhere. You can go into a Walmart or a Target. You can, buy it at your local Pep Boys or AutoZone. But the big difference with working with Dan, and it's going to be delivered right to your door, is that Dan is going to be a valuable resource for you, not only in the beginning when you start doing business, but throughout the lifetime of your relationship with Dan.
Oh, that's really right, Bob. I have customers from 1991 when I started with Amsoil, still with me, okay, people. And they've had many different cars over that period of time, and it's always been that they come to me and say, okay, I traded old Betsy off and I got a new one. What's this one take? And we work it out, take care of it, make sure they get the right stuff, and keep going. And lots and lots of people that we've got relationships over the years that are just delighted to do business with us, because we try to make sure that we treat our customers as we would like to be treated. That's kind of our rule of thumb. And I tell them to use what I would use. I never recommend to use an oil that it wouldn't be what I would use in the application they're telling me if it was my vehicle. So they're going to get my best recommendation. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm going to look at what they have, and if that was my vehicle and I was trying to protect it, give them the best of my experience and knowledge to make sure they get the very best product for the application it's going into.
And again, all I have to do is email Dan Watson at thelubepage.com. Why don't we make sure and give out your telephone number as well?
Yes, the telephone number is 800-370-2986. And the website is just thelubepage.com, thelubepage.com. And you can email me, Dan Watson, at thelubepage.com. So it all kind of fits together. And we get that information. We always respond. Give me, 24 hours or so, because believe it or not, there's a lot of people that want my time. So I can get it all done, but sometimes it's got to get done in an order, because I have to go first come, first serve. And when you call on the phone, sometimes we're just so busy with the phones that you leave a message, we'll return your call, you'll get a response. Don't just hang up. Just leave a message. All you have to say is, I need information on oil. My phone number is, whatever it is, and we'll call you back. It'll get done. So, well, Bob, it's been a good hour talking about oil. I'm glad we got these questions. And like I said, maybe in the background of our next show, we'll let the listeners know that next week I want to talk some about transmission fluids and help all the people understand that it's a very complex lubricant, and you got to be careful, real careful these days, to get the right transmission fluid in your particular vehicle. Okay, we got transmissions of all different kinds now. Some of them have 10 speeds in them. Some of them are CVTs. It's just all over the place.
Absolutely. We'll have to do that next week. Dan, thank you so much for your time here today.
All right, good talking to you, Bob.
Everybody check out thelubepage.com. He's Dan Watson. I'm Bob Long. Thanks so much for coming along for the ride.